Okay, so hey guys, Matt Lighty, and I just wanted to do a quick overview of what my Ritualist is in patch 0.4. It's I'm yet again, the game is fine. I'm having there's so many technical issues and balance issues and just friction rigmarole nonstop, but everything's working okay with the build. Technically speaking, it's just not really enjoyable because the natural combat loop for me is very unappealing. So I'm playing a Wyvern Ritualist, and I initially had these plans of doing Ignite with the Breath, but it was just so not good and having to use way too many skills, and I'm already using more skills than I want to use. So I've pivoted onto these animals have an incredibly small kit. Oh, maybe just the Wyvern does, but an incredibly small kit, 5 to 6 skills really. Really, it's only like 3 or 4. So you have a very narrow option of what you're able to do with them. And so if you're not doing the Breath, you're doing Oil Barrage as your main expenditure, your spender and your builder spender. The problem being is that none of the Wyvern abilities realistically function unless empowered. Now, to empower them, you have to have power charge generation. Power charge generation is very frustrating because there's no natural way to generate power charges outside of specific uniques, namely certain body armors that are just, you're probably not going to get in solo self-on, especially early on. So you're limited to the scope of those things. So outside of that, there's a couple gimmicky ways to consistently get power charges, although they're not very enjoyable. They're the best options we have. So one of them is having on your abilities, you're replacing effectively your dodge roll with Lingering Illusion, which makes a copy of you, and then that copy has like 1 life, and when it gets hit, it has a chance to drop, power charges, which is something. So you hit, instead of doing a dodge roll, you just hit spacebar, and you do like a dodge roll anyway, but it just makes these clones. So as you're progressing around an area, you have these things, and then when these get killed, they can drop a power charge. I'm using the base 3 power charges. The reason I'm not using more is because the power charge clusters themselves are, the ones that are at least near me are basically dead stats, unfortunately. Like, you have ones that, have +1 power charge, and that's would be an amount of quality of life, but the nodes leading up to it and give me ES, and I'm not CI, so that doesn't really do anything. Giving ES if I've consumed a power charge recently, which would be active always, but I'm not consuming power charges. I'm consuming them recently, but I just have no ES care. This other one has additional chance to gain power charges, but that doesn't do anything because, again, I'm not generating them myself, and the other nodes are much further on. There's other ways you could do generation through charges, through keystones, one of them being resonance and swapping to have it so I gain frenzy naturally and I gain power charge instead, but it's just so fucking far. So I just went away with that. So yeah, that's way 1. Way 2 is using Devour, which is one of the very few Wyvern skills. Eats a corpse, or calls an enemy and I gain a power charge. That's basically, I think it actually gives power charges based off of the enemy's power, maybe. Maybe not. I thought it maybe scaled the amount up, but it doesn't. Oh yeah, I don't know. I gain a power charge. The target's far away enough to leap to them. Yeah, okay. So it just gives you power charges like that. But again, it's, fine. So when you use Oil Barrage, the non-empowered version does like fuck all, but the empowered version does the lightning damage, and it does way more, whatever. I'm on a 6th link, by the way, so it's way stronger. The non-lightning version is just not worth using. None of these Wyvern abilities, unless empowered, are not really worth using. So you want to stick to the empowered version to do any amount of damage. And it's a channeled projectile. You come up with another problem, which is using a channeled skill in an ARPG that is not channeled to then cast, but channeled to keep channeling. So we're talking like not a Winter Orb, not a Blade Vortex type thing, as in you're channeling, and that is, like a Searing Ray or something like that. It feels terrible to play a channeled skill, because any bosses that have any amount of speed that are quicker, have low telegraphed attacks, have powerful auto attacks, you're just forever flaccid. And each time you begin an attack, even though you don't do your full 2-second channel, you're using 1 power charge whether you like it or not. So you're just always behind. You're never not behind. And if you're basically not behind, it means you're trading blows. If you're trying to trade blows, you're going to lose with how this is built. So that unfortunately leads to this gameplay loop where it feels quite terrible. So basically, God, the fucking lag. In combat, I have to start combat by having something hit one of my clones once the game decides to... Oh my god. It's unbearably laggy for me. Okay, so the clones die, I get power charges. Now I can right-click, begin my attack once it decides to stop freaking the fuck out. And then, you know, there I've killed something. It'll calm down eventually. All these sounds are like 10-second delayed. It's comical. Yes, I'm on an SSD. I have 32 gigs of RAM. I have a 4080. There's no excuse. It's not me. End of discussion. It's just the game's fucking shit for a third of the population. So that's enough of the power charge talk. It sucks, and if I were to do it, I could eat corpses to get more power charges, or I could dance around. The dragon stuff is mediocre. The tree stuff for shapeshifting is good. They're, I would say, overtly quite powerful, the notables and the nodes, because you're shapeshifting, so it's the flavor of the month, we get it. Also, you can do things like get empowered attack stuff, because your breath is always empowered, so you're feeding into that as well. So fun with shapeshifting, fun empowered, that's all fine and great. The other part is the Ritualist, which is very fun, actually. It's probably the most enjoyable part of this entire engagement, is the fact that you get a pseudo headhunter. So it works in a very specific way. You get two abilities. You get ritual sacrifice targeted and ritual sacrificed on a corpse. The self-targeted one, stab yourself, 20% life down. You get 2.5 to 3 minutes, depending on your quality and support gems, of a random headhunter modifier, just a random rare buff. You don't know what it is unless you could figure it out from context clues, i.e. if it's an aura, you might see an aura. If it's an area effect, you might see it. So that one I know is sub-fizz aura because I could see it. But you can't right-click them off. You can't get rid of them. So if you get Shroud Walker, you're just stuck with Shroud Walker. You can sit here and keep cutting your own fucking wrist and trying to get some of the good ones. And there are, you know, really good ones. An example would be Lightning Storm. Scales really fucking wonky and will just one-shot every boss in the game. I don't know what's up with that, but you could fish for it. Unfortunately, you wouldn't know you had it unless you're near an enemy. So this is one dynamic for it. So now I've got Frenzy. Other dynamic is you could target a corpse. So I could target from here, right? It's not going to work. You have to target it while you're on top of it. It's never going to walk you to it, and you'll stab it, and you'll steal all of their modifiers. So in this case, it was the empowered minions, it was the hasted, and that sort of stuff. All right? This is fun. Where you kill a rare, you get the headhunter modifiers. If you have a headhunter, this does nothing because you can't steal multiple rares, okay? Does literally nothing. But it's fun to have headhunter modifiers, so that makes this fun. The other part of Ritualist is good is you get an extra ring slot, which is there. And eventually you get increased bonus from rings and amulets, which is good. So in the meta of this game, item rarity, there's only one narrow line of generation for quant rarity. It's just through rarity. That's how items are generated in mass like that. Typically, people run IR on most of gear. You could very funnily, on this build, run 3 Ventors or have, quad rarity jewelry. So it lends itself to a scenario where you get a lot of rarity, basically, which feels good. So Ritualist is nice for that. Unironically, a lot of the builds I saw were basically running a 4-point Mystic Attunement. I would say that's almost 100% pick. A lot of people grab Blood Boil for an amount of Corrupting Blood or AoE. Or they were grabbing extra charm slots, and then they were grabbing fucking small nodes, because nobody really wants to ever push ritual sacrifice an enemy. It's super clunky. You just buy a headhunter, so that's out. No one's doing this charm trigger shit from what I've seen. No one's doing the life recovery because you're either alive or you're dead. It's typically not whittling away in attrition, so it's a weird ascendancy. This is a big buff to the duration, but makes it way better. Let's go back a little bit, talk about Barrage. This is the only thing I do in this build is basically Barrage and then dance around waiting to get power charges, which is not very fun. But Barrage does a ton of damage, so much so that I could probably do like tier 10 maps right now and be pretty comfy. The support sub is using our Elemental Armament 2 because 3 is bad. Burgeon 2 because there is no higher. Chain 3 because it felt better than the Gamble proc one. Chain 3 is fine. You could technically do whatever other support you want, but Chain in general felt good because it works nice with Ricochet to chain off of terrain. This was like a nice little combo. And then Proj Acceleration because it gives you an extra avenue of scaling damage. 40% more speed, and speed becomes increased. You have a lot of more, so you get some increased additive to your multiplicative. It felt kind of okay. I was starting to grab this node here, but I don't think I'm going to play enough to grab it, but it felt pretty good. So when you basically hit anything on screen, everything dies. because you're doing a channeled ability. So when I right-click anything, everything dies once the lag subsides. So like, here's the thing, right-click, and then they're all going to die. And then I could steer my oil barrage, you know, in about a 180, maybe more like a 270 vector. Despite you being stationary and being trailing skill, you can't turn around. This is as far as I can go. As far as your head can turn, it can't turn any more than that. You can't shuffle your feet. You can't move while with WASDA, despite the game being WASDA. You're just locked in fucking place. So, not only are you channeling, but you're channeling where if the boss just walked a little too far to your left, you couldn't even reach him. So it's just the worst of both worlds. There's a rare. Boom. Rare's pretty much dead. Like, you do, again, damage is not a problem. Survivability is not a problem. The problem is just PoE2 using a channeling skill feels really fucking bad. Here's another rare. Stab it, take its mods, eat a corpse, get my charges back. You can kind of see the gameplay loop developing here a little bit. And again, you have, you know, so you have some automated, like, you know, setups that make it more bearable. So Herald of Thunder is quite nice. A large portion of your damage from this oil barrage is set to lightning, a 40% convert, actually. Unfortunately, I don't think there's any way to convert any more damage. Like, I don't think there's a way to do, you know, an extra 60% fizz conversion. I can't find it. I can gain damage, but I can't convert out of fizz. So you're just, yeah. Anyway, so you're shocking things periodically, and that shock is making your Herald of Lightning trigger, which means your attacks then do little bolts, and those little bolts do more damage, and they do a lot of area clear, which we already have a lot of, but then little living lightnings, little spark creatures it makes. These don't really do damage, but they do tell you where mobs are, so that's kind of nice. And then that's basically it. There's really not much going on here aside from what we've just played already. So the build is, I would say, quite good. I would have no problem getting to you know, 90 or whatever. It would just be like, why is kind of where I'm at right now. So I could get to a decent chunk of a level, but it begs the question, what's the point, to a degree. So now, just like kind of going back a little bit more, leveling. Leveling a Wyvern is an incredibly limiting experience. My options consist of, you have the rolling magma or rend. That's basically, you have two buttons you could push, because you don't get any of this shit until the 40s, dude. Like, it's such a large gap. Like, it's 40 something for oil and 50 something for the dragon breath. So it's like so long you have to wait to actually get anywhere, you know. Until then, you're just basically auto-attacking. Using Rend, which is like the game's equivalent of fucking Mace Strike. Alright, so here's a boss. So this is how, again, we can't devour corpses and bosses because there are no corpses. So I'm running in circles, waiting for him to pop stuff. And then I'm hitting right-click on the boss. And then I'm going to oil barrage. And you can see the damage buildup is quite high. This is it. I'm just sitting here right-clicking until my charges run out. Call. And that's it. That's the entire fight. So I got no problem with damage. It's just, you know, the game. If there was a way to generate power charges automatically, if I could move while oil barraging, if it wasn't stationary, if it wasn't channeling, if I was a way of automating my mark, if I was a way of automating the ritual sacrifice, i.e. it's a headhunter, it would be a lot more enjoyable experience, but there's just not many avenues to do the things I want to do. And I'm not pushing that many buttons for a PoE2 build, and it's still more buttons than I would like to push, especially being stationary, especially channeling. So it's just ticking. It's incredibly successful in its endeavor, but it is still awe-inspiringly sad for what I would like to have from an ARPG build. So overall, the oil barrage stuff is a success. Ritualist is a success. But my experience playing this game still in this build is not where I'd like it to be. So 15 builds down, 0 of them have passed any sort of test as far as I'm concerned personally, but they keep working. So could I take it to 90 very easily? Yes, I could. Would I want to? Absolutely not. Eventually, I probably would go CI. I would probably get my lab, get my jewelry better, you know, get a better talisman that did more stuff, and then do more damage. For what? I don't know. But I like the little wyvern. My favorite parts are its front animation. It's like a little chicken. And yeah, it's just a cute little guy. So that's it. That's my Wyvern Ritualist build. That's as far as I'm taking it. Hopefully the game operates better next patch, and I pick something that is more what I would like out of the game. But if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. I'll see you later in the next video. I'm Mathew Lighty, and have a good day. Bye-bye.